And welcome back to Sunday Report. I'm Tom Basili. Now on to Biden's border crisis. The lawsuit against the Biden administration to restart border wall construction has now been reviewed by a New Orleans appeals court. The lawsuit brought by Missouri and Texas in 2021 was originally denied by a lower court, but now it now has standing to proceed because U.S. District Judge Michaela Alvarez says it showed how the state land has been harmed. Let's bring in Orlando Sanchez. He's a staff lieutenant at the Texas Highway Patrol. I also want to bring in my very special guest for the day, former Lieutenant Governor of the state of New York and Newsmax contributor Betsy McCaughey. Thank you both for being with us. Lieutenant, let's start with you. We've been hearing now for several years that the damage done to the property, both public and private, because of the open border has been really extensive. Talk to us about what you've seen.
Well, actually, I'm with Texas Latino Conservatives, but I am a property taxpayer in a border county in Texas, and it is devastating to the ranchers. The cartels have all these trails cut through private ranches. They cut fences. The livestock gets out. There's high-speed chases on Highway 90, which is the main artery coming out of Del Rio to San Antonio. There are head-on collisions, and these counties don't have extensive EMS service, so when there's a head-on collision and 15 illegal aliens are injured, all of the life support measures are directed to that scene. That leaves the taxpayers in the breach. So property damage is tremendous in South Texas.
Texas is allocating billions more for border wall construction and protection efforts there, sir. Orlando, what are you hoping to see now that the legislature has voted to allocate those resources?
Well, you know, those resources could go to education, mental health, continued law enforcement throughout the state of Texas. But because of the Biden failure to enforce border laws, the state of Texas is having to step up to protect our border. But not only that, let me just say, we also have to expend our property tax dollars supporting social services for undocumented aliens. Education, we have to educate the children. We have to treat them at the local hospitals when they present, and we have to provide social services for them as well. And when they violate state law, we have to incarcerate them. All of those are taxpayer expense, never reimbursed by the federal government.
Yeah, Betsy, I want to talk to you about that because in your time in government, you dealt with these budgetary issues. It's a very, very significant cost.
Well, now we're seeing it as a budget crisis in every state in America. Even in Maine. I was in Maine last weekend, a state that has a very high level of poverty, and so much of the state revenue is going to support illegals who have been bused to Maine. But getting back to Texas for a moment, it's so tragic there. I look at hospitals, that's my specialty. And the fact is that the hospitals along the Texas border are so overwhelmed caring for migrants, the maternity wards filled with women giving birth, that Texans have virtually no health care. Some of these hospitals are forced to close.
Yeah, you know, it has a ripple effect. When you do this, at the scale that we're seeing now with this administration, when you do that, it has a ripple effect. I want to, talking about healthcare on this issue, Orlando, I wanted to ask you about this. The American Academy of Pediatrics is slamming the Border Patrol in USA Today for the death of an 8-year-old girl in custody. The child had sickle cell disease and she had a heart condition. The American Academy of Pediatrics is a left-wing medical association. They back a number of very questionable medical practices. So this is perhaps not surprising, but is it fair for these groups to start going after an overburdened Border Patrol or other law enforcement because of a tragedy like this?
Border Patrol, CBP's duty is to protect the American border, not to be diaper changers, not to be babysitters, not to be paper pushers in a clerical situation, and not to be EMTs out in the desert trying to save illegal aliens' lives. So we have reassigned Border Patrol to do duties outside of protecting our border. If the American Academy of Pediatrics is so concerned, they ought to send volunteers down to Texas to the different counties. In Del Rio, which is Val Verde County, we have a small hospital that serves the entire region, and it is jam-packed with illegal aliens. That means that taxpayers have to stand in line behind illegal aliens and Border Patrol agents trying to get medical attention. And when Abuelita, the grandmother, who is a local Hispanic taxpayer, long-term Tejano Texan, wants medical attention, She can't get it because she has to stand in line. That's unfair to Texas taxpayers.
Betsy, exit question to you. The Biden administration this week came out, the Department of Justice, Anthony Blinken, both made a concerted effort this week to blame China, essentially, for the fentanyl crisis, saying that they are putting these raw materials into Mexico. They say, well, we need more. We're doing everything that we can, and we need more cooperation on this issue. They're starting to talk, maybe a little bit tougher on this, but what do we really need to do?
Well, I can tell you one reason they're not talking tough. You can ask Henry Zhao, CEO of Harvest Fund Management. That's the company that sent Hunter Biden millions of dollars when prodded by Hunter Biden's father, now President Joe Biden. That is a major reason that we're not getting tough on China, because the Biden family is compromised by China.
Yeah, Orlando, I'll give you the last word here on this fentanyl issue. The administration is now talking about China, where before they weren't. But what really needs to happen here? Real quick from you, sir.
Well, look, I mean, America is supposed to be the superpower of the world, but we are losing the fight against the drug cartels that are not only bringing in fentanyl, human trafficking, sex trafficking, and bringing children in. You know, where I live in Houston, Texas, we're the capital of sex trafficking in America. And then we're losing the war on the border. I mean, this is the greatest country in the world, and we can't secure a couple thousand miles of Texas border to protect the American people. It's an embarrassment. It's a disaster. And the federal government has become a co-conspirator in the importation of cheap labor into this country.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Texas Latino Conservatives founder Orlando Sanchez and Lieutenant Governor Betsy McCoy. Thank you both very much. Betsy, we're going to see you on a little bit later.